Welcome back, watchers and listeners. It's the draft episode. The Chiefs have just finished the 2024 NFL draft, and boy, howdy, do we got to talk about it. But as always, I got to introduce you to our co host, Mr. Garrett Amutis. Garrett, what's going on, man?
Yeah, it's going great today. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff we got to talk about. There was some great picks in the first round. There was some not so great picks in the first round, and we just got to talk about it.
We really do. But hey, we're going to cover the NFL draft. We're going to go over the Chiefs draft picks. Garrett, an offensive line coach, as we know, is going to be going over our offensive line picks, which have been very exciting, but did have some question marks. I know we're going to get to those later. We got a great episode, got to cover some NFL news. And yeah, are you ready to get into it with what we think about the NFL draft? Who got taken? What are some surprise picks? Garrett, you got to start off with the one that everyone's thinking, right?
Michael Penix to the Falcons. I don't think really anyone had that to be the expectation of what they were going to go. Maybe I've heard some talks that they were expecting to lose their first round pick next year, and they maybe just wanted to shoot their shot now. Do I go after a 23, 24-year-old quarterback as my shot for the future? Maybe not. But I saw a lot of Penix. I think he's going to be a pretty good talent in the NFL, but do I take him there with everyone else on the board? I don't think so.
And honestly, I feel bad for Penix. Like, he was the most pro-ready quarterback in this draft. He literally had to sit out 2 years for injury, and he just wants to play football. He just played in a national championship. Now, maybe not well, but that could have been another number of reasons as to why, because he played one of the best dang football games I've ever seen in my life against Texas. He did not have a flaw in that game, and so I don't know why he decided to disappear, but I digress. Penix deserved to be on a team where they were ready to. I thought the Raiders would have been perfect for him, but yeah, I feel bad for Penix. Hopefully, the Falcons know what they're doing, because that's a player that I do wish all the success in the NFL. But Chop Robinson is the Dolphin. Now, that surprised me with given the board and the needs of the Dolphins. I think they have Chop Robinson in Jalen Phillips. Jalen Phillips got injured last year, but it just felt like a reach there. Chop Robinson started falling in many drafts just due to the fact that he's undersized. And honestly, we've seen defenders succeed that have been undersized before, but it's just like I felt like the Dolphins had so many holes, especially on that offensive line. And I think they really could have, fulfilled those holes instead of taking maybe.
Yeah, and we know how the Dolphins love to be rotational with their guys up front, and they usually take a pretty decent amount of outside edge rushers on that D line, and they have no, lack of depth there, and obviously it was probably a guy pretty high on their draft board, and maybe they thought they could get back up maybe into the late first to get offensive line. You never know how these war rooms pan out. Maybe they had a plan, but I don't know if edge rusher was their top pick there.
Now, I don't think they necessarily need a tackle either, because I was looking at who got taken next, and it was Jordan Morgan, who I'm very low on by the Packers. I think that's a miss there.
Yeah, especially with the tackle still on the board at the time, it was an interesting pick. I think, especially with the needs of Green Bay, I think there was even some better corners available, considering how bad their secondary's been. But hey, like I said, guy out of Arizona, maybe they saw something they like in him.
But moving on, also, guys, if you did tune into the draft episode, I forgot to say this at the top of the hour, but thank you guys for coming into our live coverage of the day 3 of the draft. It was really cool. You guys were really engaging, and we had some technical difficulties at first, but we got it going. We were cruising along, and
yeah,
obviously
we went for about 5.5 hours, and there was consistent questions throughout, and I think it was a pretty good draft. Pretty long day 3, but
oh yeah.
we pushed through it. Almost made it all the way. Stopped right after the Chiefs 6th-round pick, but it was a pretty good day.
And honestly, we have some highlights and moments from it that we could show in a sec. Let's finish up the draft recap, and then I think we can show some moments from that live stream. But the tackle Joe Alt going to the Chargers. Now, I kind of am glad they made this move in terms of like rooting for team success and for player success. I think the Chargers needed a tackle, and they got Joe Alt. And I think the wide receiver Neighbors, he's obviously an amazing prospect, but it's like there were so many good receivers, and the Chargers did end up getting Ladd McConkey later in the draft. And I think getting Joe Alt and Ladd McConkey is a lot better than getting Neighbors and whoever else they would have gotten at that pick. So,
Right. And I mean, obviously, they're going to have probably the best tackle duo in the league for probably the next 6 years, depending on contracts. I mean, they have Joel anchoring the outside, as well as Rashawn Slater, who's been one of the best young tackles in the league for the past couple of years now. And if you wanted to protect your guy, I mean, he's going to be solidly protected for a good while now. And I was obviously super high on Joel. I didn't really talk about him just because he was obviously going to go way out of our range. Me being a guy who, with some people think rivalries, you want the other teams to be good to make those rivalries fun. I don't want Chargers fans or Broncos fans to ever have fun watching football. So this was a horrible pick for them in my eyes, but a great pick for them in reality.
So another offensive lineman that Garrett was very high on, and honestly, NFL scouts were also high on him. We just talked. J.C. Latham out of Alabama goes to the Titans
later, right to the Titans. I mean, I think a lot of people had him going even 32. I saw, or not 32, but that mid 20s range, and obviously the Titans were pretty peeved that they didn't get their guy they were expecting to get in Joe Alt, and they took a shot, and I think they hit with it. J.C. Latham's a great player. He's going to fit really well in that Tennessee system, and he's got a great coach down there.
And then obviously the last pick that we want to talk about here that was surprising is the Chiefs traded up to 28 with the Bills. We had a prediction that the Chiefs would trade up to 27 with the Cardinals.
One off.
Because I thought they'd have to leap the Bills. I thought the Bills in no world would ever.
Who knew the Bills would open the door themselves,
Yeah. Xavier Worthy is a Kansas City Chief. We talked about him on the podcast in our analysis episodes a little bit. Definitely have mixed feelings. Cautiously optimistic is the term I'm going for when it comes to Xavier Worthy. But yeah, I mean, Garrett, what did you think when we made that pick?
I mean, I initially, as you saw in the video I sent you, I initially had a pretty guttural negative reaction, just because there was a couple guys that were still on the board, like Tyler Guyton, who went literally the next pick that I was really high on. I was really hoping we go tackle first round. But, I mean, I can't deny the offensive capabilities that Worthy could possibly bring to the Chiefs on the table, especially with later we'll talk about a possible suspension to a highly touted last-year rookie on our roster, and I think he brings a lot to the table. Now, do I think he's going to be a slam dunk home run pick? Time will tell. As of right now, I'm, as you said, being cautiously optimistic.
But now let's go right into our analysis of these picks, starting with Xavier Worthy. Guys, you know it. I'm a Texas guy. I went to Texas for the last 4 years. I'm about to graduate. And I've watched Xavier Worthy play. I've been in class with him. He's a great talent. Now, he started out as a dynamic freshman. That's like the first thing that I wanted to get out of the way. His freshman year was his best season in his 3-year career at Texas with Casey Thompson at quarterback. And that was Sark's first year coaching, 12 touchdowns, almost 1,000 yards with 981. Xavier Worthy was lighting up the scene and was poised to be potentially the next greatest college wide receiver. Now, a little bit of a sophomore slump. Drop issues, he had 7. He had trouble tracking the ball, and that's where a lot of my analysis in our last video comes from. Couldn't track the ball. Low effort on plays. Wasn't diving for balls that were in range, and he had drop issues. It turns out, had a hand injury during the back half of that season. Whether we know how true that is, only per Sark himself is that true, but I'm sure he wouldn't make up something. So we're going to give him a little bit of a, all right, because he did bounce back his junior year for his first 1,000-yard season, but he only had 5 touchdowns. And that was the year that Texas acquired A.D. Mitchell, who became that red zone threat, who devoured all those touchdowns. So, that was kind of his career at Texas. That's according to the stats. And I've seen a lot of people say he has drop issues. As of last year, he only had a 6.3 drop percentage, and a guy that a lot of people said the Chiefs should take in Troy Franklin had 9 drops and a 10% drop rate on all of his passes. So Xavier Worthy does not have the drop issues as of last year, but it is still concerning. Anyway, he ran a 4.21. Let's get that out of the way first. Literally one of the fastest.
Yeah, that's the eye candy. That's what pops out to you instantly.
Literally one of the fastest receivers ever. And that is surprising because I did not think he would run a 4.21 after watching him at Texas, because it seemed like he was getting open and is getting open because of his elite route running ability. He was able to separate, he was able to find holes. that was what stuck out to me more with his Texas film. We always thought he was going to be fast. I thought high 4.3s, potentially 4.2s. But when he ran that 4.21, I was like, oh boy, howdy. This guy has so much potential. And I think that's why the Chiefs drafted him. The potential Xavier Worthy has to become is astronomical and bigger than any of these receivers that did get taken. But he hasn't had the body of work or proven it quite yet. Now, another thing that concerned me in my early analysis was his small frame. Andy Reid says they're going to fix that. The nutrition team is on it. Xavier Worthy is going to get up to 175 to 180 pounds. He's 5'11". The height does not concern me. There's plenty. If there's so many wide receivers that are talented at that height, I'm that height. So I'm not that height. I'm 5'10". But we out here. But tremendous
We
upside.
are out here, baby.
Tremendous upside. He could develop into a star. My early projections is he's only going to have like 700 yards to 650 yards his first season with 5 to 6 touchdowns. And that's going to be great. Chiefs fans, I urge you to be patient with Xavier. It's going to take a couple years. He's only 21 years old. I think that there's a long-term future for him, and he doesn't need to step up in his first year because we have Hollywood Brown, and we might not have Rashee Rice for a little bit, but we are poised to have a much better wide receiver core than we have had in since Tyreek Hill left.
And I totally agree. I mean, adding Worthy on the outside, especially with Hollywood Brown being a new addition as well, I think it's really gonna open up some routes and some combos that we have not had in a very long time, since
I,
obviously the departure of Tyreek.
and what's going to happen too is with Hollywood and Xavier Worthy, Kelsey is going to finally start to feast again because they've been triple teaming him last season, and him and Rice have been mostly underneath catch and go guys, find soft spots in zones, sit, curls. They just eat you up underneath, and we've never had someone over the top that has been any of a concern, and except when Justin Watson gets in the game and does his like 2 deep bombs a game.
You know, like every couple games, he just somehow just comes down with a ball that is just one of the most spectacular catches of the game in clutch moments.
But other than that, they never really had to respect it. So it's going to be very, very fascinating. I really, really, really hope we get to see 2019 Mahomes again, which I think we will.
That would be a dream. Just see, I feel like we've kind of lost that deep bomb aesthetic that we usually expected from Mahomes back then, and I think it might come back.
Well, Garrett, let's go on to our next pick in this draft. The Chiefs traded up again for this pick. I think we went one spot up with the 49ers,
Yep.
and that is to get Kingsley.
Yeah. Kingsley Suamatia, O tackle at a BYU.
I was not
My
going to try
initial
to pronounce
thoughts.
that.
Hey, I try my best. I'm gonna give all these guys their flowers with their names, but let's just dive deep into this pick a little bit. My initial gut reaction after not watching too much on him and just kind of like seeing him from an outsider standpoint was that he's a big tackle, really athletic, one of the more physically gifted O tackles that we've seen on the Chiefs in a long time, especially after having guys like Orlando Brown Jr. and Donovan Smith on that left side. Kind of being slow is the word I would use if I'm being nice here. After watching a couple games, I do have some strengths and weaknesses that I would like to point out. Strengths. Dude has a very high motor. He has a really good mindset when he goes out there and plays football. He's always seeking to just pummel and demolish anyone inside the line of scrimmage on run plays, is what I will say. And we'll get into pass plays a little bit later. Because him playing with high motor, it comes to his benefit as well as his detriment. I've seen a lot of times where his motor has allowed him to, really pop off the ball and drive guys downfield. But at the same time, I've also seen him put his head down and kind of miss blocks that, if he was kind of giving a little bit of attention and a little bit of, just O-line mental IQ, he could pick up that block a lot easier. When he's engaged and fully set on a defensive lineman, there's not much they can do. He's got really great power. He can get dudes off the ball in run game. He's really good at gap schemes. He can really just wash down a guy, open up an edge. That he has no problems with. He did start a full year at both tackle spots. He's got good experience on both sides. So if we really need to work him at right or left, maybe Jawan goes back to his Jacksonville roots. Maybe plays a little bit of left tackle. But I'm expecting Kingsley to really try and compete for that left tackle spot. But he has had experience at both, and that is definitely a plus side. Weaknesses. This is the unfortunate part about this pick. His pad level is very high. I'm not sure why at BYU the tackles coach has them in a 2 point stance. I don't think that benefits them well for NFL. If this is going into much deeper stuff, but a 2 point stance is they don't have their hand in the ground. They're kind of sitting on their own hips and they're just stationary. It helps a lot in pass pro, but when you're getting down into the nitty gritty, your steps are going to be a little slow.
I
And that
didn't know
really
BYU had him all coached up that way.
yeah, I thought it might have just been Kingsley, but they had their right tackle in a 2 point as well. So that's obviously something that they're coaching over there. I don't really agree, just because when he's kicking back into pass pro, you can see he just kind of gives up on his pad level. He stands straight up and he just more uses his freakish size to his advantage and most of the time disadvantage. I would say his control of outside rushers is really not up to par. I would say it's lacking. I've seen him multiple times get rushed on the outside, or I like to say he gets hooped. Defensive edge, they have this imaginary hoop in their head as they're trying to kind of rip outside the outside edge of this lineman to push a quarterback to step up in the pocket, and I've seen him get beaten on that quite often, as well as he kind of oversets and he gets beat inside a couple times. I think he has the size if he gets engaged to kind of hold down an edge rusher, but it's once again he's up high, he can't really get a good base, and he kind of gets freaked, just juked out a little bit. And I think the worst part about his game is definitely his hand placement. I watched 3 games, and I really did not see a lot on that aspect. It was not a lot of inside contained pressure. It was all just kind of wrapping around hugs. There wasn't a lot of accuracy there. He's kind of wild, I would describe his arms, which you really want it to be contained inside. Just you want it to be confident in your strikes, and that just allows you to get a lot more leverage. He did have 0 sacks allowed as a right tackle in 2022. In 2023, however, he started all 13 games at left tackle, and he did let up 2. One interesting thing that I think that probably stuck out to the Chiefs the most is that he was a team captain as a sophomore in 2023, and I don't think that's very common in college football, being that young and being a captain of your team. And he was 2023 All Big 12 second team. So obviously there was some other things that maybe a couple games I saw were some outliers, but I think he's definitely a prospect pick. I wouldn't say he's NFL ready right now, but he's got the size, he's got the ability. It's just got to get technique down.
So it sounds to me that a lot of the issues might have come from his coaching time at BYU.
It's definitely
That
possible. Yeah.
it's a lot of the prospect itself is very intriguing in terms of like size and obviously NFL heritage too. We didn't even talk about that. Puka Nakua and Penei Sewell being some of his relatives, but yeah. So I mean, definitely if he gets in our locker room and can be taught up on some of these techniques that you're talking about, I think that could definitely be someone who pans out
Oh
at the
yeah,
left tackle
and I have
position.
no doubt that he can develop into a starting offensive tackle. But as of right now, I think it'll definitely be a competition with Wande Morris. I'm not sure
Mm.
at this point who is going to win that out, or if maybe we bring back Donovan Smith. He's still unsigned. Maybe bring him back because just to get another veteran presence in the room. But we will see how that pans out.
Yeah, I'm definitely still really happy with the pick and the value of that pick. And obviously, the Chiefs trading up again does show that they think that this guy has the potential. And honestly, I liked a lot of the things he said in his pressers too. And I think that he's going to be a really great player. And yeah, Garrett, you were watching film against him where he was playing against Texas and he was playing against Oklahoma. Like
Yeah, he
some
was
of
going up
the,
against some pretty premier defensive lines, but I mean, if we're looking at premier defensive lines, we're going to be looking at how he's going to
yeah,
perform against NFL edge rushers, and that's kind of the gauge that I want to look for.
yeah. And hey, that's why we do it, baby. Going on to Jared Wiley out of TCU. This was our tight end pick that we took at 131 in the 4th round. The Chiefs traded away their 3rd round pick in order to get Xavier Worthy. And honestly, I was very happy with that move because there wasn't really a lot of 3rd round pick players that I wanted when I
Not
was
really.
doing my scouting earlier. It was actually really hard to mock somebody in the 3rd round when I was doing that because I was like, these guys just. Anyway, 4th round, Jared Wiley. This pick shocked us, Garrett, on the live stream. We really were not seeing this one coming at all.
Yeah, me and David, we kind of had our hearts set on Brendan Rice, and he just kept falling and falling, and he gets to the fourth round, and he's still there. We're both excited, and then the pick just tight end, and we're like, what just happened?
Well, and even Chris Abrams-Drain from Missouri, the cornerback, we hadn't taken a corner yet. We actually hadn't taken a single defensive player yet, and we continued not to do that. But we did have a pick 2 picks later, which we did take a defensive player, and that's a player we'll talk about in a sec that I really like, Jared Wiley. This is sure hands McGee over here. He only had one drop last year, and that's something that the Chiefs fans I know will be pleasant to hear because the scary stat that they showed it during the draft too. That was so annoying when they
Drops. Oh
showed
no!
they
Oh
showed it
no!
and they showed a picture of MVS. I was like, bro, don't do my boy MVS like that with a picture of him dropping it and saying Chiefs lead league in drops. It was just crazy. Anyway, vertical threat tight end. Garrett and I were talking about this because we're gonna co talk about this guy because he's also doing his blocking and whatever. TCU might have been misusing this player too, and if that's the case, the Chiefs have such a great scouting department to notice when teams seem to misuse their talent, and then we take their talent in the draft and when we correctly use them so they can win the Super Bowl. But yeah, he was used up. He was lined up at fullback in some of these sets, and he's 1,000% a vertical threat. 510 yards and 8 touchdowns last season with TCU, 40% contested catch rate. This guy was making some incredible highlight reel catches. Started his career at Texas, so high recruit out of high school too. Always had it. Wanted an opportunity to start because Texas just got their tight end drafted, and they're about to get another one in Gunnar Helm drafted next year. So Wiley wanted a chance to start, prove himself at TCU. I think he did.
Yeah, and to go on the point that he was being a little misused, to say that blocking is not his forte might be a little bit of an understatement. The moments when I did see him line up on the line, I mean, I'm not going to say he's awful. He can get in the way. I mean, his hands aren't accurate, but you don't really ask much blocking accuracy out of a tight end. He can set an edge if you ask him to. I don't think he's the most eager blocker, even on when lining up outside and blocking for screens. He's not going to be a guy who's going to engage and just start driving him downfield like a maniac. He's going to stay there, kind of shift his body in the way. He's not going to be, giving out too much effort. But not sure why, but there was a couple times when TCU would run like counter schemes, and he would line up at fullback, and every single time he would just pull straight up as a lead blocker, right up the gap, and he would get absolutely lit up by linebackers. He is just not a guy you really want leading the charge, is how I would put it. But he makes up for all of that in his receiving game.
His receiving game is fantastic. And I mean, the first comp that we saw, so PFF Chiefs is an account that posts out new stats, and that's why you guys have to look at the stats within its context. One pressure allowed, they
One
said.
pressure allowed, guys. It's like,
Yeah, except
is that because he's really good or because he doesn't block? Like
he doesn't line
he
up as
lines
a
up
blocker.
wide very often.
But that, yes, in most times when there is a pass play being called, he's not blocking because he needs to receive.
And even the
So
times when he is in line, I saw most of the time he was he would give a little bit of shove, kind of like fake it, and then he would release for a route. He's a block release kind of guy. He's not a guy he's not Gronk, and he's not gonna stay on the line helping a left tackle with a combo block. Like that's just not what he's gonna do. He's gonna chip release and he's gonna find an open space.
now what's great though too is I mean the comp is Kelsey is what people are saying now after they've had time to do it. And honestly, looking at the athletic score, they are like almost identical players. And hey, I mean that's some great upside.
And Wiley's obviously a bit faster.
Yes, and having some great receiving threats is definitely what Patrick Mahomes needs. So, fourth round, if they think he's that guy, the film says he's that guy receiving wise. And so TCU could have been misusing him. Again, I like the pick. I don't know why I've all of a sudden decided to start grading the picks, but I'm about to grade it. I think it's a solid B minus pick right there. I'm happy with it. And let's just go. We'll do both picks and we'll recap the other ones too. I think Xavier Worthy is an A minus pick for me. You can have a different opinion on that one.
I mean, it's the guy that they want. Obviously, he had a couple workouts with Mahomes down in Texas as well, and I think I'd probably give it a B plus. I don't think we really needed to trade up for him. Obviously, maybe they heard some other things about maybe Dallas or maybe even Buffalo really wanted to take him, and we just expected, they expected us to take somebody else. I'd still probably give it a B plus. He's a great player, but I don't think we need to trade up.
Now the Kingsley pick, I think, is an A. I want to say A plus, but after all you've talked about, I want to lower it to an A. I'll also say an A plus just because of the value. I thought getting a premier left tackle prospect at the back half of the second round, especially when I think that Kingsley might have a better upside slash future than some of the other first round tackle prospects, namely one. Sorry, Morgan
Sorry,
catching
Green Bay.
Morgan catching strays again. Uh, but yeah, no, I think Kingsley's an A plus for me. What about you?
I think if we had taken him in the first round, I probably would have given it a C. He's definitely developmental, but it's one of the last picks in the second round, not too many other tackle prospects to laugh at. So I think it's probably a solid A. I'm probably floating A minus just because it's purely developmental. But if he ends up starting for us, I could see that going higher.
Awesome. And then I'd already said for Wiley, he's a B minus for me, but what do you think, Garrett?
I just give it a straight B. I mean, from what I've saw, I like his tape. We Chiefs don't really use blocking tight ends. I mean, we've got Noah Gray for that because he's pretty decent at blocking and he's got good hands. So we didn't really need another crazy demolisher on the line at tight end. So it fills a need.
Oh, also something we were talking about pre-show too was the Jody Fortson replacement. Jody
Agreed.
Fortson is now a Dolphin, and this guy seems like he could definitely be a Jody Fortson replacement. Maybe one that stays healthy because when Jody Fortson was healthy, we were just a better team.
I don't remember who we were playing against, but hopefully Jared Wiley can recreate that catch from Fortson.
Washington.
Oh my! What a ball from Mahomes! What a catch! I mean, that was probably one of the best throws and catches all season.
Moving on to Jaden Hicks, the safety out of Washington State, the 133rd pick in the NFL draft in the fourth round. 2 picks after Wiley. How did we get this guy? This guy was literally touted to be one of the top safeties in this draft. Now, this draft did not have that many good safeties. However, it's just a league in which safeties are less valued. This guy doesn't just play safety. He lines up everywhere. He had reps at linebacker, at slot corner, deep safety, outside corner, which is crazy, and even D-line. This guy lined up everywhere. That just screams Steve Spagnuolo to me.
It's a Spag special, man. He loves tool guys that he can just put anywhere and be dominant. He loves DBs that are not afraid to get their nose dirty and just kind of go for a rush at the quarterback, which we've seen him do successfully on the outside as well as back up in coverage.
Could this be Snead 2.0? Because Snead was drafted as a safety. They had him listed as safety out of LA Tech. And this guy, he has reps at outside corner. There's a amazing highlight against him. I think it was Polk he went up against where he picks him off in one-on-one coverage. Very crucial moment in the game too. Makes the play, interception. Hicks is a fun player to watch. Hard hitting. His tracking ability and his IQ is just out the chart. When you watch Hicks's film, it's just fun. It's really fun to watch. I'm extremely excited for this pick. This might be one of my favorite day 2, day 3 picks that we made in this draft, simply because I just can't wait to see how Spags is going to use him. He's had 2.5 sacks last season too. He's getting in the backfield. He's doing it all. Wow. I just get excited to talk about this guy. PFF have him ranked as their 54th overall prospect too, and we got him in the 4th round.
Yeah, I mean, getting a top 54 prospect at pick 133, you really can't beat that. I mean, Veach masterclass. What can we say?
I genuinely don't know how this guy fell. Moving on, Garrett, do you want to talk about our next pick in the draft?
If we're saying Veach hit on the first 4 picks, he definitely took a bit of a swing and a miss on pick 5. I watched a couple games, namely game versus Ohio State. Hunter Norzad, guard / center out of Penn State. We'll start with the strengths. I always like to we'll hype him up a little bit, and then we'll get into what I think. He's got decent speed and engagement on pulls. He's accurate with his hands when he's out in space. He's not really a guy who's going to miss a crashing down edge on the outside or miss a fit on an inside linebacker when he's pulling around, which he pulled from the center position, which you don't really see a lot. Obviously, those are more scheme specific, but I just wanted to point that out a little bit. He's usually pretty patient in pass pro. He looks for work when he's not busy. He's not a guy who's just going to kind of sit, kind of look around, see his buddies kind of getting work, and he's not going to be the guy that's just going to sit there and not do anything. He's going to help his buddies out, and he's going to look for work. Those were my strengths. We're gonna get into I would consider his weaknesses. Uh, this was probably his biggest downside that I saw on film. He gets caught lunging and getting off balance pretty often. I would describe him as more of a leaner than a stepper. He lets his upper body get over his thighs very often, and defensive edges saw that and really took advantage. He was on the ground pretty often. Uh, he just definitely does not have the hand accuracy that you would want at the starting offensive lineman level. Once again, I describe it as more of he's going for a hug than a shot. His hands are a little bit wild, a la Kingsley. I think Kingsley's a little better in that department, but Norzad has some work there. I don't think he's a block finisher. Even when he engages and he starts driving on run schemes, he's not going to be that guy who's going to drive them downfield. He kind of just fits, engages, just gets in the way. He's not going to move guys. Not really a great double teamer either, which you'd think that might be one of the things you want in a guard, considering that's going to be a lot of the things you're going to do. Lower body strength also really isn't what you're looking for in a guard and center. He gets driven back pretty often on pass pro. His seats aren't great, and obviously I talked about it, but he bows his head pretty often in pass pro, especially when a defender slants across his face hard into his gap. He just follows, puts his head down, and that allows for late blitzes and twists to just kind of ruin his game. He's really late to the party getting to a twist. But
Dang.
yeah, however, there is an upside, okay? 0 sacks allowed in 2023, which shocked me watching film. Really great on your job, Hunter. He has played every single position. He played, I think, like 150-ish snaps at left tackle, 300 at right tackle, and then floating around 400 each at left guard, right guard, center. So a lot of experience at each position. And he's a Nittany Lion Club Award winner. Had one of the highest GPAs on the team, so obviously a high IQ guy, and I think he can, once again, another developmental guy. They obviously see upside in him, but definitely not starting material right now, I would say.
And I mean, this screams Nick Algoretti replacement to me. Nick Algoretti could line up at left tackle, left guard, right guard, center. He could do it all. Now, I think he could do it at a little bit of a higher level, which definitely.
Yeah, I loved Allegretti. He was a great player.
I mean, he's starting caliber.
Washington got a good one.
Oh, they got a great one. I think he's going to be great. So yeah, this seems like the Nick Algoretti replacement, and I'm fine with that. He's not going to be expected to start, but I am going to give that grade a solid. I think it's a solid C plus.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a D, but I might be a little harsh just because I didn't like a lot of what I saw. Obviously, he was playing against some pretty good competition, but like we said with Kingsley, if the competition's high in college, it's going to be even higher in the NFL. So I'm just speaking what I'm seeing.
And unlike Kingsley, Penn State does not, unlike Kingsley, Norsgaard does not get the benefit of the doubt with his surrounding offensive linemen that Kingsley does at BYU. The Penn State O-line is a Big Ten. They definitely have some
they
guys.
had a great offensive line, and he wasn't a pop-out is what I would say.
All right, well, let's move on to our next pick. Was that Kamal Haddon out of Tennessee?
Kamal Haddon was next, yes. We took him at 211.
The 6th round pick, corner, Tennessee. Now, this guy had a breakout season last year, and then got injured, unfortunately. So that's why he fell so far, which honestly could be to his and the Chiefs' benefit that we were able to get him. Reminds me a lot of Josh Williams in the sense that he's a long and physical corner, and Jalen Watson, too. 6'1", good 4.5 speed. It's not an official combine time because he couldn't run it, but this is what a lot of the draft scouts think he runs about. Great contested catcher. Always in the DB's face. That's one of my favorite things. Now, sometimes he might get called for a little PI if he doesn't whip his head around, but he's always in the DB's face. And, if the DB can't see the ball, you've done your job. You're not going to get burnt. 7.0 passer rating allowed in coverage of 2023. Insane.
Yeah, usually astronomically low.
It's like actually unfathomable. And on top of that, only 96 yards of total yards allowed against him throughout 7 games with Tennessee, the 7 games that he was healthy and played for. And that's against some top tier opponents. They played Bama, played a lot of great SEC schools. 0 touchdowns allowed last year, 3 interceptions, 8 pass deflections. He was on a great trajectory to probably get himself to be a third round pick had he got to finish the season. Had a shoulder surgery, that he's probably going to be fine after that. I never had a shoulder injury, but I would assume it's one of the more easier injuries to recover from. It's not going to affect his speed. He just when it comes to his interceptions though, a little knock. I mean, it's not, maybe it is a compliment, but he was always right place, right time when it came to his interceptions. And one of them, he picked off his teammate. His teammate was in front of him, ready to just sit and get an interception, and he picked off the ball instead. But right place, right time means good instincts, and it does, warrants well. He also had 2 interceptions that I liked, where he did earn them, in my opinion. So, take that as you will. Again, tendency not to get his head around sometimes. Physical corners can get caught lacking. Again, that is Snead-esque and Charvarius Ward-esque, if I had to be honest, where they're a little too physical to the point where they might get some flags thrown. But again, coached out of them, you want that prospect. You would rather tell them to dial it back on their physicality than to say, hey, don't get pushed around by these wide receivers. And yeah.
And I think the fun story about this kid is that, he's one guy that's going to push through adversity, and I think that's something a lot of guys are going to look through for in the NFL. Started off at a community college. He played, obviously played pretty well there, and then after the COVID year, he just walked on to Tennessee and just balled out and got a starting position. And, that's a really great story to look for. A kid who's, that's what they want to do this whole time. Maybe after high school, offers weren't coming in, so decided to, test his luck at community college and balled out.
And that's super cool too, because that just screams all the corners that Veach has ever gotten. They all come from small schools. Joshua Williams out of an HBCU. Jalen Watson actually was at Washington State, so it's not a small school. But Snead, LA Tech, Charvarius Ward. I don't know what school he went to because it's so small. I don't remember it, but it's a very, very small school no one had heard of. But, all these DBs coming out of these schools, so cool to see. Obviously, he's at Tennessee now, but that his origins started somewhere small, and he's gained the recognition he deserves. All right, Garrett. Speaking of small schools,
last pick in the draft, we picked it, I think, like 248. I'm not sure if that's the exact number, but C.J. Hansen, right guard out of Holy Cross. He definitely was not on my radar at the time of the pick, but funny story. When I was doing my my film watching post draft, I actually couldn't find the OLINE All 22 for Holy Cross. I had to watch C.J. Hansen through Jalen Coker's film, the wide receiver out of Holy Cross, too. I think he went in like the 5th. I'm not sure, but C.J. Hansen, I know I've been really, really negative, mostly on our O-line pick so far, but believe it or not, I think we hit with our 7th pick in the draft. C.J. Hansen, he has really, really good hand placement. He's consistently straight from the holsters, right into the sternum of D-line. He's very, very confident with his strikes. He's got a lot of power there. He can really knock D-ends off of their own center of balance, kind of disrupt their rhythm. He's exactly what you're looking for the NFL level when in terms of hands placement. He really engages with intensity on his pulls and wraps. He's a guy that when he finds a defender pulling around the side, that he knows that that's his guy. He's the guy I'm blocking on a pull. He is going to run them over and drive them sideline to sideline. I would say in moments of chaos is when his really mental IQ and experience really shines. His eye level is really good. He's constantly looking where he needs to, just fills out twists and stunts, passes off really well. I will say the competition he faced was not at the level of Kingsley and Hunter Norzad, but I think the fundamentals that I'm seeing from him are really well set in stone. I think he can excel. I think he has a really great mindset. I think power scheme fits him the most. I don't think he's a guy that's going to be able to, on an outside zone, really sprint to the outside and reach a guy around and close off a side. That's really not his game. He's more of a inside pound, ground and pound runner, just right up the gut, just slam him, go straight up to a linebacker, just knock him on their back. And he's a team captain, really high character guy. anytime I watch Jalen Coker's film, which is how I was watching CJ Hansen, anytime there was a big explosive play or a touchdown or his team did something spectacular, he was always one of the first guys right to his teammates, giving them high fives, lifting them up, right, and then right back to the line of scrimmage. I think that shows a lot for him. I think his pass pro can make him get a little high at times. He's a little antsy during pass sets. I think he just gets a little bit impatient in there, but that's not really a huge problem. Uh, you would say when he gets stuck up with those bigger inside D tackles, he can get pushed around a little bit in pass pro, especially when he gets a little high. I saw that a couple times. His vision on pulls, it's a little lacking. When you see a defender kind of like fold on the inside around the edge, he kind of misses them sometimes. It just leaves a guy open and unblocked. That happens from time to time. I don't know if that was a game specific thing, but I just wanted to point out that was something I saw. He's definitely the most experienced lineman of the three that we drafted. He has started all 37 games at right guard,
Wow.
so no shifting there, no left guard, no center, just purely right guard. And in all 37 starts, that was purely at Holy Cross. I know he had a couple games at another college. I'm remembering it's another small one, but he had one sack allowed in 37 starts. So obviously he knows what he's doing out there, and I think that was a good pick for us in the seventh.
Yeah, honestly, in the seventh round, you really can't get much better than a guy like Holy Cross's own.
Holy Cross, baby. Did I expect us to get a guy from Holy Cross? No. But
And I
hey, that's
just,
two Holy Cross guys going in the draft. So hey,
well,
they
no,
got a good program.
because I just looked him up. He actually
Was he
went
undrafted?
undrafted. Coker went undrafted to the Panthers, so I guess I
Hey,
guess that,
still picked up by a team. You know.
yeah, but I guess the Holy Cross guy that we really wanted was Mr. Hansen. But hey, great. I honestly, shout out Garrett. That was some great analysis over there. I did not know anything about this guy
Yeah,
at
I
all.
didn't either. It was really hard to find the film, but once I found it, it was pretty good. I saw a lot of good things out of him.
Yeah, well, I mean, sure, Chiefs fans are going to really appreciate that insight to him because, hey, if he ever does end up fighting for a starting spot, because like we know, our guards are at the end of a contract with Trey Smith, and in Joe Tooney's case, nearing the end of a contract and potentially the end of his career. I still think Joe Tooney has like 3 more years left, but hey,
O-line always lasts longer than you expect.
you know, CJ Hansen, he might have to step up in big times like Allegretti has had to in the past. So I like doubling down on the Allegretti
I
position, being
agree.
like, we'll take Hunter, who's more versatile and at a bigger program, and we'll take CJ, who's potentially just a better player, but less versatility on that line. So great to reload the offensive line. This pick is an A for me.
Yeah, I agree. Honestly, for me, it's an A plus. I loved his film, love the guy's character, and I think he's going to be a good fit for us. Hey, and obviously, if he doesn't make the roster, hey, who knows? But
Yeah.
he'll at minimum be practice squad guy.
I think he'll
And
make the roster.
I
We
think so
lost
too.
4 offensive linemen in the offseason. We lost Darian Kennard. We lost,
I wouldn't be surprised if Hunter Norzad doesn't make the roster. But
ooh.
I give my well wishes to all of our draft picks. Even if we said some stuff, maybe you're watching this and you're like, man, that guy really doesn't like my game. It's all in well wishes, man.
Oh, and two, like, it's not a terrible take about the Hunter thing because I don't. Darian Kennard made the practice squad. I don't think he made the final roster, and he was
Yeah,
also a fifth-round pick. So, these things happen. Not every Veach pick is a home run,
right.
and obviously it is so early. Haven't even seen these kids coming into the facility yet. But as always, we gotta get some eyes on them and start watching their film. So Garrett, in order to protect our athletes that we cared so dearly about, that play day in day out for us, the NFL has decided to let them wear guardian caps during the games,
The
which
pine cones.
which
Yes.
I'm sure everybody loves, including Chris Jones, who tweeted that he doesn't like it.
I would guess that this is more of a precautionary allowance. I think this is more in line with how Tua went through that whole shtick where he might have had multiple concussions in the season, where he was maybe rushed. I would think that this is going to be more of, okay, this player might just have come off of a concussion or like a big hit in the game. He's going to wear a helmet for a game, maybe two. I don't think it's going to be a consistent thing. Obviously, there's going to be a couple players that elect to wear them at all times. But I was telling Quinn, a good friend of ours, about this recently, and I said I wouldn't be surprised if guys that you would expect to wear them don't, because it doesn't fit how they look. You know, it just makes you look a little goofy. And I think sometimes players they value look over safety.
Well, and according to Chris Jones, which does this is not a you know it's not like a perfect source here in terms of doctoral advice. He goes, "This is the craziest thing ever. The caps make no difference." So maybe they don't make a
Maybe
difference.
hey, maybe Chris Jones knows something about the science that we don't know from behind the scenes. Hey, maybe we ask Clyde. You know, he's a nurse, and he's been on that for a long time. Maybe he knows a bit more about that than Chris Jones. But
He does wear those hats in practice too. I've seen Clyde with the Guardian cap. That's like when I think of a Chiefs player, that's the first
you
person
think of
that comes to
Clyde?
my head.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it just makes him look so big headed.
yeah.
What's
Well,
your opinion on the whole Guardian cap thing?
I don't like it. I think it looks stupid. I mean, I get letting them wear it is fine, but
Now, maybe this is a push forward to maybe they upgrade the science behind the caps. Maybe there's a new development in how they look or how they, attach to a helmet, just to kind
if
of,
it's covering the logo, I don't want it.
yeah. Oh, hey, maybe they have customized ones with the logos on it. They got the little pine cone on there with the Chiefs logo. That's gonna look fire, man.
I think it's just the NFL doing it in order to like
It's
say
appeasement.
it's a
It's
PR
appeasement.
move.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Speaking of PR, we have the Chiefs potentially moving to Kansas side. There's been the meeting ultimately did not go anywhere, but Kansas lawmakers were shown some early mock-ups of what could potentially be a Kansas City Chiefs stadium with a
In
retractable
Kansas.
dome in Kansas, in Legends near Kansas Speedway. A great location if you had to move. Um, but we're gonna
Same
show.
designer, by the way. If you guys have any inclination about this is the same designer as Speedway and Sporting KC, so they're very familiar with this side of the border, and uh, I think a lot of these mock-ups would look pretty good. I'm not a fan of the permanent dome per se. I'm more of a retractable dome kind of guy, just because we love how the weather is down in KC. But come Super Bowl time, I would love to be able to host one in the future.
Yeah, I guess that is probably one of the pros to doing this is the ability to have a Super Bowl be hosted at the stadium. Uh, but honestly, as long as they stay in Kansas City, given all the uncertainty, I would be happy if they just move to the Kansas side. Realistically, I'd rather them just renovate Arrowhead. I think it's a historical stadium. I think that I'd rather, that home field advantage with the cold and all that stay true. Um, and honestly, moving is scary and new changes are scary. And if they had to move, I would much rather this than any other option.
Then
Like,
who knows, going back to St. Louis,
and well, going
well,
back to
not
St. Louis,
back to St. Louis, but that's
going to
another
St. Louis.
going to St. Louis. I mean,
Well,
it's
and it would be back to Dallas, and my friend who's a Cowboys fan, who, dude, why would you even say this? He's like, well, if the Dallas gets the Chiefs too, I'm gonna root for both the Cowboys and the Chiefs, and I'm like, bro,
first of
that's like,
all, money
no.
wise, moving to Dallas would be one of the worst decisions because
Well, Jerry
they're all
Jones is not
Dallas
gonna let
fans.
it happen.
No, that
The
wouldn't
governor, the
be good.
governor of Dallas said, our city can handle two NFL teams, and we would love to have the Chiefs, but screw you. They're staying in Kansas City. Whether that's Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas, is yet to be determined.
I mean, with
Me
Mahomes investing in Sporting KC and the Royals, I mean, I don't think he plans or wants the Chiefs to move anywhere outside of Kansas City.
They won't. I mean, they're going to be in Kansas City. It's just whether it
Yeah.
be Kansas side or Missouri side. And honestly, me and Garrett may be a little biased because we're both from the Kansas side. But like,
Just a little bit, maybe.
we like the Kansas side, and I like how the city has grown a lot since I've left
And
for
there's a
the last
lot
4 years.
more developmental space out there. We can get a bunch of hotels, because those are really the requirements. It's parking and hotel space just for if we want to possibly host a Super Bowl in the future.
And maybe people would actually go to Legends now because I feel like
True,
it's not
true.
as busy as it should be. But yeah.
No.
Moving on to our next topic, and that is the rumors of Mr. Rasheed Rice. getting suspended for half the season. I don't really want to put too much into this conversation actually because I just hate rumors that don't have
Yeah,
actual.
until all of the details come out and all of the court proceedings go through and they run their course, I don't think we're going to see much out of it. I mean, there's rumors that he'll be suspended half a season. I've heard some things that he might not even be suspended until next year due to the court proceedings might take a very long time.
Oh yeah, you're
Until
right.
we hear something official, I don't think there's uh, much leverage in terms of rumors. So I mean,
Yep.
obviously, uh, what he did wasn't great. If he's suspended half a season, it is what it is. If he's suspended at all, who knows? NFL suspensions are weird and crazy and all over the place.
The
So
wheel of punishment, as you like to say. Yeah, and this report came from James Palmer, so it's a credible source. But just because you're a credible source and you're an insider doesn't mean that you know everything. And so we'll just report on it for good news. Now let's go back and circle back to our draft reactions. Our guys. We've had a lot of guys in the draft that we wanted. For me, Adonai Mitchell at pick 28. When I thought we traded up, I was thought for sure it was going to be Adonai Mitchell. And honestly, that getting attached to these guys in the draft does start to,
it
sway
hurts.
your
It hurts a
picks.
little bit.
It hurts. It's been a long off season of scouting these guys, and I'm wishing all the best for these guys wherever they go. I actually really like AD Mitchell going to the Colts. I think that'll be a great place for him. Garrett, you had some guys in your draft
I
that got taken.
yeah, I had
Cowboys took two of them.
Tyler Guyton took two. Tyler Guyton went the pick right after we took Xavier Worthy. I was really hoping we would snag him in the first if he was there. Obviously, the Cowboys decided that he was going to be, their top pick, and I totally agree. As well as them taking Cooper Beebe from me, ripping them from our clutches. I would say he's going to be a Hall of Famer. He
At
just will.
center, it looks like
I
is
am
what they're early going to
100%.
do.
I am 100% positive that Cooper Beebe is going to be a Hall of Famer for the Cowboys. But that's the past. That's who we wanted. And hey, another big guy, a guy I was really big on, Ricky Pearsall. Wasn't really expecting him to go in the first round, and he goes to the 49ers essentially right after we take Worthy. And that was a huge shock for me. I was really hoping he might have fallen and we might have gotten him, but I'm happy for him. I knew he was going to be a really good prospect, and NFL, even the 49ers and their prolific offense, they agreed.
Yeah, and I mean, hey, I think the rumors were that the first round pick that they were going to make was Xavier Worthy, and they pivoted to their second best guy on their board, and they thought that was Ricky Pearsall, and I think they could be right. So
Yeah.
I like that for them.
49ers also took one of my favorite guys, and
We'll see that clip right now.
hold
Here
on.
it is. They traded up for him too.
That means we were gonna take him, dude. No, no,
I knew it too.
no.
Sorry, man.
Dude, that means they knew we were gonna take him. We were totally gonna take him.
Or they thought the Ravens were going to take him. I think it's more likely the Ravens were going to take him.
I'm depressed, dude. All my draft crushes are just going before we can get him.
All your draft crushers are going to the Niners.
That's true. Ricky Pearsall went to him too. I can't believe it, man.
Yeah, so that was from our live stream that we did both on Instagram and YouTube. It was a day 3 draft, guys. We were there for 5.5 hours. That was
Yeah.
crazy.
And I saw live one of my. It was honestly probably my top draft crush was Isaac Rendo, and he was stolen from our feet.
No, I don't think it was as big a need to get a running back, but hey, I mean, when you see talent, you want talent. And clearly, I didn't think tight end was as big of a need as we did, and we said, "Hey, Wiley, we need him." And
And I'm just letting you guys know that backfield with Christian McCaffrey and Isaac Rendo is going to be absolutely monstrously deadly. And you hear it here first. I would not be surprised if he's used quite often, and he's going to be awesome. I think he's going to excel. Even if Christian leaves eventually, I think Isaac could be a starting role.
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, the Isaiah Pacheco prototype definitely shot Garendo up in the draft, and I mean the Niners took two of your guys, so
Yep.
clearly, and the Niners are, I'd argue, some of the best drafters of the recent years. So
Yeah, they had a really good draft.
it's good. It's a good little compliment to your scouting, Garrett, that the Niners think your players are good too. But yeah, I think that's all we want to talk about today. We're hitting the hour mark again today. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Talkin Chop. Be sure to follow us on the Instagram at Upper Hand Chiefs, where we do our hard posts, our analysis, all the news that comes out. Be
Join the
sure.
Discord in the description as well. If you guys want to ask us questions that we're going to talk about on the pod, we're welcome to any question, any hot take, any cold take, whatever you guys want us to talk about. Just give us ideas, man. We want you guys to be involved, and that's really what it's going to be used for.
Yeah, because the next couple of episodes, it's gonna be a lot of off-season talk, and we got free agents that we're gonna be talking about next week. Who are some guys that we still think we could add? Garrett already touched on Donovan Smith as a potential reunion, but there's a lot of guys out there, and still that could still start on teams out there. But yeah, thank you guys for watching again. Garrett, do
Go
you have
Chiefs,
anything?
baby.
Go
Go Chiefs.
Chiefs as always, and as always, we're just talking shop.